Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Stanley's Lucky Man Season 2, Episode 8. So, watching this episode, I'm like, man, like, how far we've come. Especially from, like, the first episode. And now, like, how, like, it seems like these episodes are honestly getting, like, really good and really interesting. And this one was like, man, like, the way that they end this episode... The way they end this episode, I was like, oh my god, like, no! Like, freaking cliffhanger, motherfucker! You're leaving this on a cliffhanger? To make me want to go and watch the other episode, but I'm gonna try and just wait it out. But, like, man, the way they end this episode, I'm like, I'm ticked! Like, I'm freaking ticked! I'm like, you're gonna cliffhanger me into watching the next episode, you piece of garbage? How could you do that to me? How could you pull that off? But if anything, they pulled off a really good episode. Like, even, like, considering how any of the other episodes were really good for the season. Like, I thought this episode was like, man, this is really good, as far as story-wise. So, finally in this episode, we have to confront the elephant in the room, which is Isabella. We have to confront that she has to be stopped in this episode. And whether or not that she ends up actually getting stopped towards the tail end of this episode, where this episode is to end is fairly interesting. And how it seems there's a lot of stuff that is to kind of revealed to get us enticed to continue on with this journey. Because it seems like there are some people that are going to be ending up into some bedrooms, if you know what I mean. There is going to be some characters that are going to finally, I guess, question whether or not there's going to be a relationship with them, which is kind of interesting. Really enjoy this episode. Really fun. So good. So good. Like, all I can just compliment this show on is just, like, how, like, just interesting they go about this. So, with that said, like, yeah, there isn't much to talk about this in a very cryptic like sense, because if I go any further into just talking about what ends up going on here, it'll spoil a lot of things. It seems that Harry is back in Gamblers Anonymous with this episode, and that helps us kind of write out this episode. Uh, we have Isabella, who is going through and starting to kill guilty people in this episode. So that's interesting. And so Harry is now deciding that he is going to stop Isabella from doing this, figuring out a way to tie her into being guilty also. But is Isabella going to get away with it? Or is Isabella going to sneak out of this, and maybe when she sneaks out of this, she takes some people with her, or she takes some people out. So, with that said, yeah, that's all I can say. That's all I can say. I think I've kind of said too much in this episode, if anything. Like, it's so worth watching this episode. This one was just kind of a fun, like, really fun to just, like, from start to finish is really what I could say. But there's much I could say, so I think it's time to go out of the way, go out of our way to just go into spoilers. Best episode of this season until maybe what is going to happen for G golly the rest of the season. G golly, if people say that anymore. So let's go into this, because I've already wasted too much time just saying how great this episode was, and that's all I could. That's all I got. That's, like, it feels like they hit the ground running on this episode. So let's go into this, because there isn't, like, a downtime where I can just kind of cryptically talk about stuff. Like, something is going on with Surrey in this episode. She's to have a side story, I guess I can say that. Harry and Anna are having something going on in this episode. I guess I can cryptically say that. And there's still things going on with both Eve and Isabella. And yeah, like that's it. So let's go into that coveted. If I haven't already, it's going into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time I'm going to spoil this episode. So in the very beginning of this, we have Harry that's going to a poker game. Kind of weird. Harry is going to uh, like this game, and all of a sudden, like this other guy is like, kind of weird that you're here. I thought you like found God or found religion, and like I didn't think that you'd be coming back. So Harry was to have won this game and just takes all this money and just chucks it in the air. He just doesn't care about it. And so I just don't quite understand why Harry went out of his way to go and go into a gambling thing again. But we have Isabella who is going to find these two men. One is to just be called John Doe, and the other is to be called Andrew Harvey. And Isabella is to find these two heroin dealers and have both of these men shoot one another by accident. And while Isabella is to be free to uh, just not get killed by either one of these men. And so Isabella is just kind of like talking to both of them and just kind of like teasing them and whatever because bracelet power, baby, bracelet power. So we find out that Isabella like knew about these people because she is going and she is spending time with Winter. Like we have a scene where Isabella and Winter are to like be like sharing breakfast together and whichever. And so Isabella is to try to squeeze information from Winter by like finding out all kinds of things about what his cases are up to and so on and so forth. She's squeezing him for information. It isn't a real relationship here. Like Isabella is just using Winter, I guess, to like try to get back at Harry. So by taking out the men that Harry is working on or his department is working on. So Arwell, Surrey, and Harry are to eventually go and find these men dead. And they're like, man, these are the biggest like heroin dealers like of town or whatever, and they're dead. Like, hey, high five! Like, man, this is like the greatest day of our lives. Like, we're gonna be able to get like these people off the streets because they're dead. Great. So they go and of course they inspect these people and they find out that like they couldn't figure out who this one guy was, but they could figure out the other guy was Andrew Harvey. And so with the way that Ralph, the CSI or the doctor or whatever, Ralph is to make the assumption of like where the bullets were to be from where, and so Harry's to mention like, well, it seems like they both shot themselves, to where they mistakenly like shot themselves. So like really that that leads Harry to immediately assume that Isabella was a part of this because like only like Isabella could have like left a calling card like this. So Harry eventually calls her and is to like say like, okay, where are you? Because I like this ends now. Like I'm sick of this. And so Isabella's like, well, hey, yeah, just go ahead and just kind of walk wherever. Just go into a bar and you'll easily meet me. You'll easily see where I am. And so Isabella is to meet Harry at this bar, and so Harry's like you gotta stop doing this. And Isabella is supposedly killing guilty people. Like she's basically pulling out a Dexter, where like in the Dexter show, I've reviewed that fairly recently. like this guy is to be a CSI investigator, and he desperately needs to kill somebody, but he's only going to kill people who he has evidence on that is to have killed them. So let's reel back a little bit. Dexter is to find evidence that so and so person had been a killer, and so that's who Dexter goes after because he is a killer that is to basically just kill killers. So if that's not, anyways, so what ends up happening is we have a guy who Isabella is going after, who is uh, Matthew Hamilton. Matthew Hamilton is all of a sudden starting to like choke. He's like, "Argh." And so Harry is to scramble to go and give this guy a Heimlich, and then Matthew is to be able to be like, oh, okay, I'm fine. And so he leaves with this woman because Harry is to tell him, like, well, hey, you need to leave, and you need to leave now because you're going to die for one reason or another. So Matthew is to start walking, and all of a sudden he is to slip and fall and crack his head on some, I think, piece of table or something like that. So, anyways, so that leads us to after that, we push on to have Harry at Gamblers Anonymous, where he's to hear this story about a guy named Bill who had lost like 77.5 grand, and Bill had went on to think that he was going to win. He thought he had like this guaranteed like thing, and like he thought it was going to work out, and it didn't. And so all of a sudden Bill is to see Harry there, like you are the cause of my loss. And so Harry's like, hey man, like, so eventually Harry is to go to Bill and just be like, hey man, like, just take my number and like I'll try to help you out, like I'll try to like figure something out for you. And so that eventually transitions us to eventually Harry coming home to see Anna just like sitting in his apartment. He's like, okay, what is this? Like, am I to see Daisy? What is this about? Like, Anna, why are you here? Like, is there an arrangement that I'm not aware of? Like, what's going on? And so Anna goes and she gives Harry scratch offs. And Harry starts like going and like using a coin of sorts to eventually go and like see what luck is Harry going to turn out of these scratch offs. So Anna does one, and it says that she does not win, and she's like, "Oh, that sucks. I didn't win." Well, Harry, what did you do? What did you do with this? And all of a sudden, Harry's to turn and show that he won like 20,000 like pounds or whichever. And so Anna's like, okay, like go and scratch off another one, Harry. Let's see what you get out of that. Second one, he's to get like 30,000 pounds, and then Anna's like, okay, so finally there's proof that this bracelet does work, that like this bracelet does have luck, and you're telling me the truth. And so that just leads to us going to a that just leads to having like Anna and Harry just going like, well, what are we gonna do with this? And Anna's like, I don't know, like, because Harry just kind of explains that it's like, well, like he explains the rules of the bracelet that eventually, like, he'll have really good luck, but a lot of people may not, and so like Harry explains the rule of the bracelet, but like there isn't an exact way that everything is to go with this thing. Like he eventually mentions that if there was an instruction manual on this thing, like it must have been destroyed or whichever because they couldn't have found it. And then so Hannah is to walk off, and like you start to see Anna is just like, you know what, I think I'm gonna fall back in love with Harry. Like I think that's where we're heading in this episode. So uh so Harry is to push on to have another case about a car burning with a man in it. And so Orwell is to eventually tell us that Matthew Hamilton was the guy who had fell before and whichever. So the guy who had died via this car burning was a guy named Damien Richards. We find out that he's a loan shark and that somebody probably had owed him money and that person had probably wanted this guy dead. So that leads to uh, Isabel wanting to, I guess, go to Winter's like department or like precinct and like talk about like, hey, you want to have dinner or something like that? And like, oh, okay, sure. Like, and so uh, Orwell had found the prints of the bad guy, and so like Isabel is just kind of waiting for Winter to come back because Winter is just kind of busy. And so while that's happening, eventually Isabella is to eventually uh, find the culprit, like via the information that Orwell is to have. And so she like takes pictures of all this stuff and is like, okay, well this is gonna be the guy I'm gonna kill. And then eventually, like Isabella like leaves and tells Harry like, oh yeah, or tells Winter, oh yeah, I'm getting a call from a friend of mine that is to have relationship problems, and so like I'm gonna deal with that. Is that okay? And Winter's like, sure, sure, yeah, yeah, go ahead. Like we'll have dinner later, yes. And it's like, yeah, yeah, sure, of course. Uh, so Harry is gonna call Eve to ask if she can find this information out a lot quicker of who this person is. And Eve does find it, and she does say that it is actually Bill. And of course, Harry knows who that is. And so he's like, "Oh, Bill, come on, man. I believed in you. Like I thought you were going to go and kill somebody." So uh Eve is to find where Bill is, and he's at some parking lot. And so, all of a sudden, while Harry is making it to this parking lot, Rich is calling Harry because uh, Surrey had made a date with Harry, like a dinner thing with Harry, just kind of like catch up on things, like see how like the bun is going in the oven, so to speak. Because I know that Surrey is actually, but like congratulations, like I'm gonna keep going with that until like congratulations, Surrey, you did it. The actress known as Surrey in the show, like yeah, like cool for her. Like man, like hopefully this show made a lot of money for you. But anyways, so because I know, like I could tell they're trying to skirt away things. Whatever, it's cool. So now I'm gonna keep making jokes about it because like it's obvious they keep skirting around things, and it's funny. Like to me, how they're trying to like masterfully masteringly, craftingly try to avoid like showing Suri and trying to like keep her like on the show, which is cool because I like that. Like them like continuing to like, dude, we definitely want to have her continue to be on the show somehow, and like so hopefully we can just kind of figure out ways to keep on like having her here without actually having her being shown with Bump. So, anyways, so Rich is to call Harry and say, "Hey, yeah, you made dinner reservations, and where are you?" And Harry's just like, "Well, hey, like, how about you just take her, and you guys go out together, cause I'm swamped with work." And so Rich is like, "Well, okay." Like, so Rich is to go with Suri on this date, and so Rich is to be like, okay, I don't quite get why you're dating your partner. That seems a little odd. And Suri's like, I'm not dating like Harry. Like, if anything, no, 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 no. That's not what I'm doing. Like, if anything, we're just like colleagues, and if anything, it's just like I just wanted to just like talk to him because I think Suri is technically on her suspension. If you guys don't remember, there was an episode where she was to clock a woman, and I guess she was to get like suspended for that. I guess for X amount of time, and so reasonably, I guess like since Suri like she can't do anything, she just like goes on to, I guess just want to talk with Harry just to have like a meeting together. So But eventually, what ends up happening between the Richard and Suri date is that eventually both Rich and Suri find out that they're a little bit more compatible than they thought. So compatible that they compatible themselves into a bed together. And Harry is to eventually wake up Rich to find Suri in Rich's bed. To just be like, ooh, like you guys are getting together. Isn't that great? To where Harry is to eventually ask Suri, like, hey, what are your intentions with my brother? And Suri's just hey, like, no, it's nothing like that at all. But is he single? Is he single? I don't know why I can't speak right now in this review. It's hibbity 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 squibbity. So Suri's just like, well, is he single? And Harry's just like, well, what does it matter to you if he's single? Because, like, you said that you weren't going to be involved with him. And Suri's like, well, like, yeah, I'm not going to get involved with him. But is he single? Like, the round and round we go. So, but anyways, so Harry is to go and find Bill, and Bill is gonna go ahead and just jump off a ledge. Just go ahead and just jump off a ledge because he thinks that maybe if he could die, then maybe his family will get some kind of money, not the exact money that they need, but you know something. So, uh, that leads Harry um to eventually call Isabel, and like he's just distraught that Bill had died, and reasonably this is still tying to Isabel, and so Harry is just upset that Bill is to die, and Isabel is just say, "Yeah, I know that you liked him. Like I get it. Like I know that you because like Isabella is still playing off to Winter that it's some like girl relationship problems, and so Isabella's just trying to also like answer Harry, but also be like cryptic, um, because Harry or Winter is still there, kind of just hearing this conversation. So that leads us to uh, have Harry just decide, you know what, I'm like this has gone too far. I am now going to have uh, this suicide look like a murder, so Isabel would be pinned to this, and I'm going to use the help of Eve to make this look good. So Eve is to is to appear to go and like give Harry this weapon, and then they take the weapon and they plant it into Isabel's place. And so Eve leaves, but Isabel like finds her and grabs her and is like, "What are you doing here?" And like so Eve like says nothing and then eventually just leaves. So pushing on, transitioning on. So uh let me see here. So they go and they find Bill's body and they say, "Oh, well, it's a murder for sure. It's a murder. Somebody, like, he died. Good for him. He's dead. Sadly enough. Whichever." So they find out that the last call of this Bill was Isabel. So they're like, "Ooh, maybe we'll connect the dots here." And so Orwell and Surrey is to go to Isabella's place and look through and find in her trash can that there's some evidence there that would link Isabel to this murder. So Winter is to immediately like excuse himself from this case because he dated Isabella, and Harry is to also excuse himself because he's fabricating a reason. Harry mentions that Isabella was actually in the Gamblers Anonymous thing, and that's where Isabella had met Bill, and maybe that's why Isabella had murdered Bill. And so Winter is just like, "Oh my god, like, I didn't know Isabella was in Gamblers Anonymous. Like, I guess, like, there's not much that I actually knew about this woman." And Harry's like, "Yeah, it's too bad. Plus, also, like, I used to bang her, so..." No, that's not what he said. I wish Harry would have just said the truth of, like, "Yeah, like, like, she was my girlfriend at one point." Like, wouldn't that have been bizarrely, like, wouldn't it have come up somewhere that, like, Harry was having a relationship with Isabella? Like, I guess he could still play it off as, like, yeah, he did have a relationship with her, but also she was in the Gamblers Anonymous thing. So they could have played this a number of ways. Anyways, so pushing on. So, uh, Isabella is now in prison. Is in the precinct's prison, and so Harry goes off to talk to her, and Isabella is just like, how could it have come to this? And Harry's just like, "Well, like, I'm giving you like, I'm not giving you the mercy that you didn't give to any of the people that you've killed recently, and so, like, you deserve this. You deserve to be here." And so that just leads to Harry going off to go and speak with Daisy, because I guess Harry has had some time with Daisy, and so Harry's asking Daisy about her schooling and how, like, she got a C and whichever, and Daisy's like, "Well, yeah, that's because you, like, helped me with that homework, and I guess you sucked at, like, history." And Harry's like, "I thought I was gonna be good at that. Like, I guess not. Sucks to be me." So all of a sudden we have Anna, and I think Johnny is Anna's boyfriend's name. I could be wrong about that. And so Anna and Johnny are having an argument, and Harry's like, "Does that happen a lot? Like, does it seem like they're gonna break up? Does it seem like me and Anna are gonna get back together, Daisy? Like, do you think it's gonna happen, Daisy?" Like, but eventually, I guess that does. Uh, so Harry and Anna are talking about Daisy, and so Anna is talking that she had went to see, or no, wait, the let's set this up better. Harry is to mention that he feels awful because he set up Isabella to like go to the fall of a murder that actually didn't happen. And Anna says like, well, yeah, like I went to see Isabella and I thought she was freaking nuts. Like, and Annabelle was kind of concerned that maybe Harry will eventually end up that way because of the whole bracelet thing. And, but eventually that is to lead to have both Anna and Harry in bed together and like just banging it out, banging a bang, 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 bang. And so Harry is to say, like, well, like, if anything, we should probably hide out that like we're sleeping because we don't want to give Daisy hope or anything like that. That this like relationship could quite possibly like work out again. And plus, also maybe Anna is gonna have to make a phone call to Johnny, just like, hey, if we were broken up already, then this is gonna be the end of this because Anna and Harry part dose. Well, maybe because the way this episode ends. So, anyways, pushing on. So, Surrey is to eventually go and do some investigation and eventually find that Bill's watch had broke before, before he was actually killed, supposedly. So Surrey's kind of making this consensus that like maybe it wasn't Isabella after all, and that maybe it was someone else. And so they found a woman who was to be wearing all kinds of leather coming into this location. And so they naturally assumed that Eve could be the murderer of all this. And so that leads us to like have them think that hey, maybe Eve is going to be the killer, because eventually Isabella is to be asked about Eve, and Isabella's like, well, yeah, like I knew her in my gambling anonymous thing, and I tried to help her. Like, if anything, it seemed like she was getting a little bit cray cray, so I was trying to help her out, and like I think it just kind of blew up in my face, kind of thing. So uh, Harry is to get a call from Surrey about what is all to go down, and Harry is driving with Anna to some location. And so Surrey is telling Harry everything, and then all of a sudden, Harry's brakes is to go out. And then so Harry is to kind of like crash his car. And so Harry is telling Anna to stay in the car. Whatever you do, stay in the car. So Harry gets out and he tries to like, okay, I know you're here. Like, come out. Like he's basically talking to Isabella, like saying like, come out wherever you are because I know you're gonna try to take me out because you're angry or you're upset that I almost put you in prison forever. So come on out. So we have Eve making her way to Harry. And so all of a sudden we have Harry who is to open up his door to all of a sudden get electrified. And so Harry ends up getting knocked back from his car. Anna's fine. Anna's fine in the car. But Harry ends up getting electrified and he ends up dropping. And so we have Anna who's trying to do CPR. We have Eve who is scrambling there, makes it there, and is trying to like help out Harry. And like they're trying to do CPR and like, oh my god, I think he's dead. And I'm like, oh my god, like Harry's gonna die? Harry is gonna die? And so they stop the episode at that. They're like, oh, well, next time on Harry and his adventures. I'm like, you're gonna cliffhang me at that? You're gonna cliffhang me? Like saying that Harry's gonna die? Like, this doesn't make any sense because, like, Harry is poster boy. Like, like, so what are they gonna do? Like, carry on the show with Harry being dead? And they're just gonna be like, well, yeah, I guess we're just gonna have to, like, Harry can't be dead. There's season 3. So that kind of ruins that whole thing of just saying, like, how can Harry be dead if there's season 3? Like, what is he gonna be, like a ghost? The whole, like, could they be ghost Harry for like a season and a half? That would be cool. Like, have like there be like a whole like Harry is like doing investigations with ghosts. Like, maybe they can pull a whole Patrick Swayze kind of thing. Wouldn't that be cool? No. All right. But so, like, there has to be a way that Harry is gonna like surprisingly make it out of this, because there's another season of Stanley's Lucky Man with still like with still Harry as the guy, as the dude, as the, you know. Here's also the thing. Harry had mentioned that the only way for him to lose the bracelet is for him to be dead. So does that mean that since Harry is dead in this moment, that the bracelet can come off of him and transition to either another person or whichever? So maybe we're going to go, maybe this is going to be really cool. Maybe Harry will lose the bracelet, just be like, hey, bracelet's off. And so maybe the bracelet wielder will be on to someone else. Maybe it'll be on Eve. Maybe it'll be on Anna. Maybe it'll be someone else. That could be cool. Because immediately once Harry dies here, I'm like, oh my god, are they going to transition the bracelet to someone else? Like, that's what I was thinking. Also, of just like, well, like, there still has to be this bracelet thing going on, but the whole dead thing, like how they had to like prominently mention that only when Harry is dead can the bracelet come off of Harry. And I'm like, so is it gonna happen? Is someone else gonna get this? I don't know. But that's what makes this next episode really enticing to watch. But with that said, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody. I apologize for the weird, bizarre ways in which that I was talking. Like, I am just like blah blah blah, tongue tied. Especially once I watch when I review a ton of videos. Like, eventually I'll start to get tongue tied, and eventually it was bound to happen. So, anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.